What's up, guys, and welcome back to another week of the A-Game.
It's been an exciting week for Mountaineer sports. Stay tuned as we talk men's and women's basketball, recap the track and field team's trip to Buccaneer Track and Field Invitational.
Mountaineer Spotlight host Jay Boyd joins us in the studio again this week, and stay tuned to find out who will be crowned this week's Player of the Week.
I'm Gray Salter.
And I'm Austen Lopp.
And this is the A-Game.
App State men's basketball defeated the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette in a dominant performance at the Holmes Convocation Center on Thursday night. The Mountaineers started the game on a 17-0 run and never looked back, winning the game 104-77. 5 App State players scored double figures, including Tyrell Johnson, who tied a season high of 20 points. Tyrell went 7 from 10 from the field and 2 from 3 from the three-point line. The game also included a great defensive effort by the Mountaineers, who forced 21 turnovers in their victory over the Raging Cajuns.
The App State men's basketball team seems to have found a new hunger for winning. App State extended their win streak to 3 games in a row with a hard-fought victory against the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe on Saturday night at the Holmes Convocation Center. Justin Forrest scored a season-high 32 points in a thrilling game that saw the Mountaineers win by a narrow margin of just 1 point, defeating Monroe 85-84. And Austin, we both agreed that last week the Mountaineers needed to make some improvements on defense. Right. There definitely were some issues for them. And this week, I really feel like they did that. They improved on defense a good bit.
Absolutely. They must have watched the show or something, because it seemed like a lot of stuff that they were doing to fix, it was stuff we were just talking about. Things like they hold Louisiana to 77 when they average 80 points a game. That's the second highest points per game in the Sun Belt. So being able to hold that team below their average is really impressive. And also Louisiana and ULM both had players who were top 5 scorers in the Sun Belt, and none of those players were able to get to their season average. So obviously that defense is playing a lot more efficient and really singling out the problems that they need to fix and getting to work.
Team defense, too, has been huge for them. You talk about stopping those individuals for ULM and Louisiana, who both are averaging over 20 points a game, didn't make the 20-point mark, either of them. That's a big deal for App State. And that kind of pressure, it ended up making turnovers a huge asset for the Mountaineers through this 3-game win streak. App State has forced 55 turnovers, so that's crazy. I mean, they're taking the ball away from people at will. It's been a very impressive showing, and that's allowed App State's offense to really flourish on the flip side. They've been taking really smart shots, being efficient with their possessions. They shot 42% or better as a team during that 3-game win streak, as well as they shot 56.5% against ULM. So that's unbelievable. As a team, to almost shoot 60% is great. And then, a lot of different guys contributing to that, starting to take some of that offensive scoring load off of Ronshad Shabazz as well as Justin Forrest has been important. 7 different players during, again, that 3-game win streak had 10 or more points.
Right, absolutely. It's super impressive. Isaac Johnson got that double-double where we saw him get 10 points and 14 rebounds. Super, super great game. That's definitely what they need. That offense has to keep rolling. And then Justin Forrest comes in against ULM on Saturday, and scores 32 points. Goes 11 for 18 from field goal and 6 from 9 from the three-point line. That's pretty impressive. And is getting a lot of free opportunities at the free throw line as well. That's really big. That's a really good way to score points and get easy buckets and get that lead when your defense isn't doing as well. They go 53 for 67 in the last 3 games. That's 79.1%. That's not terrible. That's
you can't ask for much better than that.
You can't ask for much more, and they're definitely doing what they need to on the offensive side.
They have certainly made a lot of improvements. Defense stemming to good offense, but looking forward for the Mountaineers, where they're kind of at right now, they're 8-14 overall, 3-6 in Sun Belt play, and they're tied with Troy for the 10th spot, so they have moved up since we last talked about them. They're only 4 games back from first place Georgia State, and there's 9 games left on the schedule. So there's time for this team, not necessarily to leap all the way to first place, but to certainly improve on their seed right now at 10th. I mean, only 4 games back from first. You can see where there's a lot of room to be made up in 9 games. And to get that good seed once they hit that Sun Belt tournament at the end of the year is definitely going to be important. Their next game is going to be away on February 7th versus Texas State. They are second in the Sun Belt Conference right now in the standings, so that could be a tough one for the Mountaineers, but it's going to be important for them to kind of get into that game, carry this momentum that they've gotten on this 3-game win streak, and propel their season to keep going forward.
When we were sitting here last week, we were 4.5 games behind first. Right now, we're 4. So, if we keep that train moving, you never know what's going to happen.
No doubt. After the break, we'll recap this week in App State women's basketball. Stay tuned.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
App State women's basketball got off to a rough start on the road, falling 73-55 against Louisiana Lafayette on Thursday night. The Mountaineers played well in the first half, but were overtaken by the Raging Cajuns late in the game.
App State bounced back from their 2-game losing streak with a solid win over Louisiana Monroe on Saturday night. A great team effort saw 4 Mountaineers with double figures, including Maddie Story and Bailey Plummer, who each scored a game-high 16 points. App State went on to defeat the Warhawks 80-58.
When we come back, Mountaineers Spotlight host Jay Boyd joins us in studio. Stay tuned.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
So this week for Mountaineer Spotlight, I'm in the studio again with my co-hosts, Austen and Gray. And we're talking App State sports, of course. So men's and women's basketball were playing again this weekend. Men's were at home while women were on the road. Men picked up 2 wins in a row, so that puts them at a 3-game winning streak. And the women continued to do what they're doing, still pacing 5-4 in the Sun Belt, doing pretty good. What do you guys think we need to see out of the men for them to continue their winning ways?
Well, I really enjoyed watching this team this week. I think that it was a lot of what we knew that we could see. The 2 games were very different, in my opinion. You had the earlier game in the week against Louisiana, which was a little bit easier. And, we had talked about defense last week, how important turning offense to defense is. And this week, or in that game, we were able to see Louisiana shoot 18% from 3. And I think that really gave them the ability to have that big win. But then we kind of went back to their old ways of not as playing good defense against their second game against ULM, where we saw that much tighter game. And I think that that's the number one thing that I'm seeing is that when we play that good defense, or maybe when a team isn't scoring well, we can capitalize. But for right now, we still need to keep working on that defense for sure.
It's an interesting point by Austen to point out that against Louisiana, that blowout win, that they only shot 18% from 3, because one of the areas they've struggled defensively is guarding the 3-point line. I think they still are, even with that performance, bottom of the Sun Belt in 3-point field goal percent defense. So at times they do struggle to guard the perimeter. Louisiana couldn't hit any shots from deep, so you saw that blowout from App State kind of come to the forefront. Against ULM, they did hit some of those shots from deep, so you saw that game stick a little closer. I think several times App would score a basket or 2 and get stops, but then ULM would hit a 3 or 2 in a row to kind of catch back up and keep that game close. And I think that's going to be a trend that you see continuing out the season, is the 3-point line be something that hurts App State at times. I will say other things on defense, though, really were clicking for them. They were rotating pretty well, especially underneath the basket, down low in the paint. If somebody got penetration, the team defense to recover was really good in both games this week. And steals, players all over the place getting their hand on the basketball defensively and really making it hard for other teams to just get comfortable in their offense. Isaac Johnson had a double-double on Thursday night against Louisiana, but he also had 5 steals in that game. So Justin Forrest also, I think, had 3 himself on Saturday. A lot of good work defensively, improving at least, and they can build off of that to keep going.
I agree. Yeah, defense was definitely the key this past week. On Thursday, App State scores 100 points, We all said last weekend that turning some defense into offense was a key for them. We know they can score whenever they need to. And yesterday they get a good stop to beat ULM here at home. Defense was a staple this week, and they get 2 wins out of it. So hopefully that continues. Do you think it is that, though? Do you think that's the difference in them winning and losing games? Is that perimeter defense for them?
I definitely think that it has a huge part of it. I mean, we saw this week in the 2 games that they played, they shot 41% from 3 and 50% from the field, and still had those closer games. And you can see the difference in the type of defense, like I'd mentioned earlier. So I definitely feel like there are things that are changing and that we're getting better at. Like you brought up the steals earlier. Isaac Johnson, he's got that long body, like you mentioned. App State still sits at 8th place in the Sun Belt in steals. I feel like those are places that we can improve for sure. So overall, I think we're looking good. And if we start fixing the things we need to, including that defense, I think this team could be dangerous.
Defense obviously is huge. You can't win basketball games without playing defense, and I would say that even becomes more so when you get into tournament time, conference tournament, March Madness, if you get that bid. One thing I have seen from App State offensively, kind of on a different note, is just the shot selection, the efficiency, and they're playing smarter basketball, I think, than they have been. They're starting to kind of trust each other and figure out where people can contribute best based on their skill set. I think before maybe they were having trouble trusting each other. They just didn't really have an identity offensively. And they're starting to share the ball really well. They find Bennett Holly in the corner here and there. They're getting Isaac Johnson the ball down in the post. Tyrell Johnson's really working the mid-range game well, which has opened up things down low for him too. And the guards are starting to distribute the basketball a little more, which actually is giving them more looks offensively to score, because now teams can't just double-team Justin Forrest and Ronshad Shabazz every time and expect to have success against the Mountaineers defensively. Other guys are contributing. 7 players in that 3-game win streak for App State scored 10 or more points. So it's not just 2 guys offensively trying to really shoulder the whole load anymore. There are other guys, and it's not the same guy every time stepping up to help them. And I think a lot of that has just come from finding that identity and then being smart with the basketball and offense.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. A lot of pressure being taken off of those 2 guards in Justin Forrest and Ronshad Shabazz. Yesterday, Justin Forrest comes in and gets 32 points. Great game for him yesterday.
Absolutely.
And App State still sits at 3-6 in the Sun Belt, but their next 3 games will be against Texas State, UT Arlington, and Coastal Carolina. And all 3 of those teams sit at 6-3 in the Sun Belt, tied for 2nd place. What do they need to do to get some wins there and climb those rankings in the Sun Belt?
They've got to find a way to allow themselves to be motivated the same way that they are at the home center away in other teams' stadiums. I know that sounds like something pretty simple, Jay, but you know, App State's a pretty good team at home this year. They have a winning home record and a losing record overall. So that's showing you away has just been a struggle for them. That win against Little Rock, the first conference win of the season for App, was their first away win of the whole year. So, and that's including neutral sites. So they've had a big issue motivating themselves away from Boone. I mentioned calling the game actually on Thursday for WASU Radio that traveling for App State sports can be kind of tough sometimes if you think about the fact that we're way up here in Boone, North Carolina, but a lot of the teams are down in Texas, down in Alabama, kind of a big travel haul there for a lot of App State sports teams. And I think for men's basketball, it's taken a toll on them at times. It's tough for them to go on those long road trips and come away with wins. And as you mentioned, 3 really good teams coming up, 2 of those games on the road. It's going to be important for them to take what they've got here at homes in this stretch and carry that onto the road. Find a way to motivate yourself away from home.
Absolutely, got to get some road wins.
I completely agree with Gray. I've always been on the boat that said that men's collegiate basketball is probably one of the harder seasons in collegiate sports, just because, like, and especially with the Sun Belt, you know, you got these guys traveling a couple hundred miles on a Tuesday to go play a basketball game and come back to, you know, do everything. It's a genuinely tough thing, and I know last year we really struggled away, and that really kind of derailed the season. So I feel like if we can continue doing what we're doing here at home, I mean, Isaac Johnson's on a tear right now. He had the double-double, and then he scored 32 yesterday. He's killing it. So I really feel like at this point, if they can just do what they do at home, that there shouldn't be much of a problem.
And switching gears a little bit, women's basketball has continued to make their climb. They're at 5-4 in the Sun Belt, and they're kind of trying to continue to make a leap so they can get to that Sun Belt conference. and try to win some games in that and bring some championships home for the App State Mountaineers. What have you guys been seeing out of those teams?
I feel like they're just doing what they know they can do. I mean, they are very consistent, I feel, and they can score. They're doing a great job playing team basketball, and we've seen that a lot from them in past years. I remember going to games before and just feeling like they have a good connection. So I feel like if they can continue to do that, they can play their game and they can score the way they know they can, play good defense, and just overall be a good team. That come Sun Belt champion or tournament time, this team could look really, really good.
I tend to agree with Austin in the sense that I think fundamentally they're really good. They check all the boxes every night. They're a good rebounding team. They assist on a lot of their baskets, meaning that it's not one player trying to take over. They share the basketball really well, and they play good defense. And you rebound, pass well, and play good defense, you have a chance against anybody. You have to do more to beat the bigger teams, and you have to make plays, outside of that. But if you do the fundamentals right, you'll find yourself middle of the pack or better, and that's right where App State women's basketball sits right now. Just doing the little things can take them that extra step, getting into the top 3 potentially. They're seeking that. I think they're 5th place, 4th, 5th place, kind of floating around there with every game that they play right now. So, they're right there on the cusp. One thing that they struggle with, the same that we just mentioned for the men's team, is on the road. They're coming off of a road win, which is a big deal for them. Any win on the road is good for your program in any sport, but for whatever reason, App State sports on the road, it's an extra grind. It's a little bit of an extra effort to go get those road wins. And I think for men's and women's basketball, if they can find a way to do that, it'll kind of push them over that cusp a little bit and allow them that extra bit of success that maybe they're not finding quite yet.
They've been a great team to watch all season long. They play their brand of basketball. They go out there and do their thing every week. They play good defense. They have a deep bench, and they get production out of their bench. Bailey Plummer's been amazing. She grabs those boards and is a hoss down there in the post. After the break, we'll take men's and women's track and crown this week's Player of the Week. Stay tuned.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
The App State men's track and field team competed in the Mountaineer Track and Field Invitational on Friday and Saturday. Pole vaulter Tristan Shaver set a new school record, clearing 5.2 meters, breaking the previous record set back in 1998. Shaver has won the pole vault competition in every meet so far this season.
The App State women's track and field team also competed at the Mountaineer Track and Field Invitational this weekend. Samara Gibson, Casey Turo, and Jenna Lineberry placed first in the DMR tandem, while Felicia Greeley placed first in the 1 mile run, with fellow Mountaineer Hannah Ratcliffe close behind in second place. The men and women's track and field team will compete again next weekend at the Darius Dixon Open, hosted by Liberty University.
Now it's time for our Player of the Week.
Our Player of the Week this week is none other than Justin Forrest. The App State guard had 2 incredible performances this past week, scoring 17 points against Louisiana Lafayette and a season-high 32 points against Louisiana Monroe. Forrest is consistently contributing to the Mountaineer scoring effort, averaging 16.6 points per game this season.
That's it for this week's episode of The A-Game. I'm Gray Salter.
And I'm Austin Lopp. Join us again next week. Thanks for watching.